Hey guys, this is Radic here. As promised, we have the Death Knight talents and glyphs I was going to give you. As you can see here on the left, you have your choice of being Blood, which is as a tank, Frost, and Unholy, which are both damage. Unholy gives you the pet, of course, and Frost is mainly just straight up DPS. Frost, a lot of things that you used to have to spec into, such as Pillar of Frost and Howling Blast, they now just give it to you. As you spec into it, like you don't have to like put any talent points into it. Then once you get that, you just click it, click learn, good to go. And once you go over to talents, that's where all the fun starts. Some of the new stuff: Roiling Blood. Your Blood Boil ability now also triggers Pestilence if it strikes a diseased target, which is good for tanking. DPS and PvP wise for me, not exactly the best thing. Next off, we have Vile Spew. Causes an undead minion to erupt in a shower of bile, dealing 724 shadow damage to all enemies, and it gives them blood plague and frost fever. This is more of an unholy thing, I would think, because you don't always have your minion, so it's kind of stupid to spec into that, especially with this thing right here, Unholy Blight, which surrounds the Death Knight with a vile swarm of unholy insects for 10 seconds. And it stings every enemy within 10 yards every 1 second, and infects them with blood plague and frost fever. And that's pretty awesome if you ask me. Right here I'll show a clip of it happening, and as you can see, you just activate it, you run around, and I mean you can just infect everybody. It's perfect for PvP because then you don't have to use Pestilence, which is on a huge cooldown. Not a huge cooldown, but it's not exactly the most productive way to do it. Also, here's what Vile Spew looks like. It just looks like the little minion just kind of explodes. The thing I hate about this is it takes 60 runic power to use, so you have to be using a lot of abilities just to use this, whereas like Pestilence you could just use. So I think that's kind of a loss by speccing into that. The next tier you have Lichborn, which of course makes you undead, so you're immune to charm, fear, and sleep effects. And then you can do the whole heal yourself thing. But I chose not to spec into this just for the fact that there's some different healing stuff later on. Enter Magic Zone, you know what that does. New thing, Icy Grip. It reduces the cooldown of your Death Grip by 15 seconds, which is great because it makes it so much easier to peel off your healers if you're in arenas and stuff. Also, it causes them to be slowed for 50% for 6 seconds, so basically you can just Death Grip someone, then Chains of Ice another person, then basically your healer is free to go. So I think that's perfect. In the next tier we have Death's Advance. Basically you can't be put below 75% of normal movement speed. I think that's great, but I chose to go into Chillbanes because your Frost Fever reduces the speed of everyone by 50% for 10 seconds. And your Chains of Ice immobilizes people for 3 seconds, which is great mobility and utility for PvP. And then we have a new one, Asphyxiate, which they finally gave us a stun, but of course they have to put it in the same tree as Chillbanes, which I'm a fan of. If you look at Asphyxiate right here, you basically just raise up whatever enemy. There's a bunny that I did before, but then I did a human here, and you lift them up basically, and they're stunned for 5 seconds, and it takes place of your Strangulate. So, I mean, it's pretty cool, but I'd rather just have my Strangulate. The next tier we have Death Pact, which is you sacrifice your minion, and then you get 50% of its maximum health to you. Death Siphon, that's a new one. I tried using this, but for some reason I could just not get a Death Rune to proc, so I feel like this would be great because it's instant. Every time you have a Death Rune, you can just do this, and 75% of the damage dealt is healed to you. But I couldn't get that, so that's why I spec'd into Conversion. Conversion basically continually converts runic power to health, restoring 3% of maximum health every 1 second. However, your runic generation is reduced by 50% while the conversion is active. So basically, you spend 10 runic power to use it right away. Then every second it spends another 10 runic power. So you can still attack things while using this and trying to get runic power up as high as you can, but it'll eventually go down. I was doing this for probably like 10 seconds. Oh, you'll see it. I was doing this for like 10 seconds. I mean, it heals about like 4k per tick, which I think is pretty good. It's a nice hot that they have for you. So I think that'll be great for PvP. Blood Tap. Oh yeah, this is where you get your Death Runes. Each Death Coil, Frost Strike, Rune Strike generates 2 blood charges, maximum of 10. Blood Tap consumes 5 blood charges to activate a random fully depleted rune as a death rune. So you need to have Blood Tap and Death Siphon together for it to actually work, which I guess is pretty cool. Maybe I'll test that out. Runic Empowerment. Basically, whenever you land Death Strike, Frost Strike, Rune Strike, you have 4-5% to activate a fully depleted rune. But I spec'd into Runic Corruption it's basically the same thing, except you activate Runic Corruption, which increases your rune regeneration rate by 100% for 3 seconds. So you can get most of your runes back right away instead of just getting the 1 for that 1 burst that you might need. Then to the 90 tier, this is the great stuff. This is the stuff I'm excited about. As you can see here, the new Gorfiend's Grasp. Shadowy tendrils coil around all enemies within 20 yards of a target, hostile or friendly. That's awesome. Dealing 2,250 shadow damage and pulling them to the target's location. So it's basically like an AoE death grip. You can put it on yourself to peel people off of others. You can put it on an enemy so everyone's all clumped together. Then you can have a priest come in there and AoE fear. I feel like this is some great utility. It wouldn't really be that big of a deal in 2s or 3s, but I think in 5s, if you had this would be a great way to gain more control. Remorseless Winter surrounds the Death Knight with a swirling tempest of frigid air, dealing 1,715 damage to enemies within 8 yards every 1 second for 8 seconds. Each time it deals damage, it reduces enemy movement speed by 15%, stacking up to 5 times. Upon receiving the 5th application, enemy will be stunned for 6 seconds. Now this is awesome. It costs nothing, it's instant, 1 minute cooldown. As long as you're near the person within 8 yards and it hits them 4 times, 5 times, that is a ridiculous slow, because it's 75%. Once it has a 5th one, it also stuns them. So now they're slowed 75% and they're stunned for 6 seconds, which is crazy. I'm going to have a lot of fun with this. And then here we have Desecrated Ground. Corrupts the ground in an 8-yard radius beneath the Death Knight, dealing 3,057 shadow damage every second for 10 seconds. While standing in this corruption, the Death Knight is immune to effects that cause loss of control. So basically you can just put this on the ground and you're free from mind control, fear, all that kind of stuff. And it also does damage every 10 seconds. Or every second for 10 seconds. That's pretty cool. It's on a 2-minute cooldown, so I mean, I guess it's kind of in place of a trinket, and it only helps the Death Knight to be immune to these effects. So it's basically a second trinket, but you have to do it before someone mind controls you or fears you. Or you could trinket and then use this. I mean, it's a good way to save your trinket or have more utility so you don't need to use your trinket as much. That's basically all the talents. Going into the glyphs, there's some really cool glyphs, some new ones. I'll just go over the new ones because all these other old ones. Here we go. Enduring Infection. Your diseases are undispellable, but their damage dealt is reduced by 30%. So, in large PvP action, that's great, because nothing can be dispelled, but they don't do as much damage. For arenas, I'm not the biggest fan of this, because not many people dispel diseases. Icy Touch. It removes 1 magic effect from the target, or 1 helpful one. That's pretty cool. So if they have like Lust or something like that, I believe it'll take it away. Shifting Presences, you retain 80% of your runic power when switching presences. That's pretty awesome. Especially if you get into trouble and you need to switch to blood, get that more defense. You'll still have those that runic power to save you, heal yourself, all that stuff. And I believe that's it for new stuff here. Let me scroll down. Yeah, that's for the most part. The minor glyphs are where the fun stuff is. Death Embrace we already had. Geist. Your ghoul now turns into a Geist, and I'll show you that right now. Once you raise him, kind of looks like a hunter from Left 4 Dead if you ever played Left 4 Dead. It's a lot cooler than the ghoul if you ask me. Horn of Winter, when used outside of combat, you get a snowfall. So use Horn of Winter here. Walk around, basically snows on you. It's more of an aesthetic effect. Resilient Grip, you already had that. Tranquil Grip though, your Death Grip spell no longer taunts the target, so that's pretty good if you're using PvE. If you don't want to taunt the target, but you need to pull a caster into the big mosh pit, That's what you can do right there, is just pull them out. They're not instantly attacking you, they're still attacking the tank, but you brought them in. So I believe that's pretty cool. That's basically it for all the glyphs and talents. I hope you liked the video. Make sure to like and subscribe for more. I'm planning on showing some priest stuff in my next video, so be sure to stay tuned in for that.